Hey everybody, it's Tom at Stormbreaker Films. Happy Devil's Night as I record this, and maybe Halloween or All Saints Day or Christmas Day as you watch it whenever it happens to appear on the main channel. I'm going to do a special little Halloween episode today. We got some spoopy movies. This also doubles as a Amazon Prime Selections episode, kind of. Let me adjust this a little bit. All right. So what we have today, we have, first of all, a movie that proves my long-standing rule of absolutely zero tolerance for male heroes in movies with curly hair. House with the original curly-haired hero, William Katt, who I always hated as a kid, and Greatest American Hero. And I never saw this movie when I was a kid, except like little bits and pieces. And it always seemed like it could be scary. Boy, is it not. It's basically the level of gravitas is like like a Sid and Marty Krofft show with like just a little dab of creep show. It's so bad. It's one of those horror movies too where the premise isn't that bad. It's William Katt plays a Vietnam vet who is also an author. He mainly writes horror movies, but he's been or horror novels, but he's been trying to write the memoirs of his time in Nam with who's the guy who played Bull in Night Court? Robert Mole, Martin Mole, one of those two. Anyway, the big humongous guy from Night Court was a cohort of his in Vietnam who apparently cast some kind of magic spell on him that cursed a house that belonged to his grandmother, because there's some connection between his Vietnam flashbacks and the house. So he moves into this house where his son disappeared years ago. He was drowning in a swimming pool, and he jumps in, and just the kid disappeared. And his aunt passed away, so he inherited the house. And rather than burn it to the ground like a sensible person, he decides to live there, even though he knows it's haunted and he's seen all kinds of weird, freaky shit going on. His neighbor George Wendt from Cheers it seems like he's going to be a bigger character than he is, but he just is kind of there. And I think they switched Cheers alum, because I want to say John Ratzenberger, who played Cliff Clavin, is the sidekick in House 2. But again, never saw House 2, so I don't know for sure. But there is one kind of creepy sequence in this where he breaks a window or a mirror in his bathroom, and it's like this portal, and he's like rubbing his hand on the outer side of the house where the window would open up to, and it's just solid. But when you look at the window, it's dark, and he starts to repel in, and that's genuinely creepy, because he's basically like sliding down a rope in this completely dark area into a lake of indeterminate origin. That's creepy as hell. But then once it starts, once he gets there, he finds himself back in Nam, and the Martin Mole character, or Martin whatever, Bull from Night Court, he starts to harass him in the form of a ghoul, and just the whole thing makes zero sense. Like how is his aunt's house connected to his Vietnam experiences? And there could be like a really good story there, where the post-traumatic stress of being in war and being a novelist just makes you see all this shit, but they treat the subplot with his son very literally. It's just a mess. And the puppets, the puppeteering, maybe it was good for its time, but I kind of doubt it. It doesn't really look that great. They have like a bunch of stupid monsters, and I always get annoyed in movies where, okay, so you can see that the poster has like a dismembered hand, and there's this monster where the hand is just like running around, like that Michael Caine movie, and he's at one point he's like stepping on it, trying to cover it up so his neighbor doesn't see it. Why not just go, hey, look, I hate to be a pest, but Could you please fuck off? There's this dismembered hand. See, look, see it? It's like, how are you going to get blamed for a dismembered hand? You're a novelist and a Vietnam vet. It's not your fault that there's dismembered hands running around. And again, like at one point, like it's so frustrating. This next door neighbor like brings her kid over for him to babysit. He knows full well there's freaking huge monsters all over his house, and he doesn't say, look, this house is haunted, so you may not believe in that, but fuck you. I'm not going to do this, and it's not a safe environment for your kid. Like I can't stand like protagonists that just don't even have a trace of honesty in these movies. It pisses me off. Anyway, House is a piece of shit. Don't watch it. I'm glad I saw it as an adult so that I didn't get wrapped up in like false nostalgia over it, because it really is just terrible. Speaking of terrible, all right, Breach. Fucking Bruce Willis, unbeknownst to me, has entered into the Nicolas Cage, Steven Seagal point of his career. He held off longer than most, God bless him, but Breach is just a freaking terrible movie. It basically looks exactly like the production values, everything to a T, is exactly like an average episode of the Battlestar Galactica show that is 10 years old now. Is fucking awful. So there's something going on like where Earth's been poisoned, whatever, climate catastrophe, build back better, fucking Bilderberg group, whatever the fuck. Anyway, the climate and atmosphere of Earth are destroyed. They're going to New Earth, and they're on this really unimpressive ship. See this ship in the poster here? This is how the ship looks, and like the little shuttles are about, I don't know, an eighth of the size of the ship. But meanwhile, there's, I don't know, I think there's supposed to be like 30,000 inhabitants. None of it makes sense. It's awful. Anyway, this ship encounters some sort of alien life. One guy says he put it on board, but they can never explain what they are. They can't destroy any of them. They turn people into zombies. They get their asses beat by these aliens while most of the rest of the crew is in hypersleep. Bruce Willis, in addition to looking like a washed-up Colonel Ty from Battlestar Galactica, is kind of a hard-drinking character as well. So, I think he kind of had some fun getting this paycheck on this awful movie, but he's by no means the main character. The main character is this ethnic-looking guy over here, who is the father of the Admiral, played by Thomas Jane's daughter, who's pregnant and in hypersleep, and he for some reason he didn't get the lottery to leave Earth, so he's a stowaway, which the sentence for that is death. So he's kind of facing double jeopardy, like they're from the aliens and from the other crew members. That's kind of a cool bit. The movie's not completely devoid of entertainment value, but boy, it's close. It's like sort of the pluperfect two-star movie where there's just almost no redeeming qualities except it's got Bruce Willis. I don't know. I can't believe how far he's fallen. I mean, it makes sense. He's getting on in years, but and I've missed so many of the spiraling the toilet films that he's done, like whatever that piece of shit he did with Kevin Smith was, or anyway, I haven't seen a lot of his garbage movies from the last few years. Although, judging by the diehards, those have all been pretty terrible since 3. Breach. They never really explain the rules to these aliens. Some of the aliens like morph together into bigger versions of aliens. None of them can be defeated though, and it's really stupid because Thomas Jane plays this admiral who his character motivation is that he wears sunglasses because he's badass. And they unthaw him after the caretaker crew that's watching everyone in hypersleep gets almost wiped out. And so he assembles his best men, and they proceed to get wiped out too because none of the caretaker crew took a moment of time to explain to him that they don't know how to defeat these aliens. They seem to be only vulnerable to like a rocket fuel fires. Like there's like a very limited number of things, but meanwhile they send them all in with their machine guns and bombs and all these things that are completely ineffective. So again, it's another instance like House where it's like if these characters just had 2 seconds to communicate like grown-ups, half the events of the film wouldn't occur. Which also may apply to 47 Meters Down Uncaged, but I'm going to cut this one some slack. I'm a shark movie fan. This movie had... this movie was weird. It was suspenseful in a meta way, because I remember when the first trailer came out for 47 Meters Down, I guess the version with Mandy Moore, I thought it looked kind of fair to middling. I missed out on the time. I was talking to a coworker though, and she was like, "Oh yeah, the character wakes up in a cage at the end of the movie, and even though it seems like she got out, so like the last 10 minutes have been like a dream sequence or a hallucination." I was like, "Well, that sounds shitty as fuck." So I'll pass on that. But I recently got a trial membership of Amazon Prime. This is one of the first ones I watched. And the whole movie, I kept waiting for this this dream sequence thing, and it never happened. And then I realized this is the sequel. That's why they call it Uncaged, even though there's no cages for them to uncage in the movie. So this movie is not only uncaged; it's completely uncaged. There's not any cages at all. It's really weird. But so apparently her being in a cage at the end pissed people off. So it's really funny to me that they would make a sequel where they feature the one thing and remind you of the one thing that super annoyed you about the original. But this story basically involves 2 sisters, one white, one black, who decide to play hooky on a expedition to go check out their father's underwater dig. He's basically part of the camera crew, I guess, or the gaffers that are rigging an underwater like Mayan ruin or Aztec ruin with lights, so that a documentary film crew can go in there and check it out. So they're swimming down into this cool looking, kind of like, it reminds me of the cistern from the Tomb Raider video game, the very first one, where there's just like all these cool statues and stuff, and like there's lights everywhere, and they find these little cave fish that don't have eyes. And meanwhile, they did a little foreshadowing where they found a great white shark tooth that had been fossilized down there or something like that. And they come to discover that this sacrificial chamber is connected to a larger passageway that includes these great white sharks that are have reverted to sightlessness. So you have these spooky zombie-eyed sharks that are really cool, running around murdering people. It's fantastic. I'm a stupid sucker for shark movies, but this one, it actually had something that I've always kind of wanted to see in a shark movie, which is, you have all this suspense where people keep checking their air meters, and it kind of reminds me of the phony suspense from like a Star Trek spaceship battle. They're like, "Oh no, shields are down 40%, shields are down 35%. It's basically just a countdown of the air or the shields, whatever. Very generic movie plot. But I've actually found myself thinking, it's like, what would almost be worse than a shark is if you just ran out of air and just straight up drown. And somebody actually drowns in this movie. I thought it was great. It's like, with all these sharks going around killing people, it's wonderful that they actually show that, one of the major dangers of being underwater is that you can drown. But, it's a wonderful reminder too that anytime you leave your house, you're part of the food chain again. So stay on dry land, people. Anyway, I hope everybody has a lovely Halloween. And possibly we will have a couple more videos coming out maybe in November. I would like to get back on the horse and get another like a Hollywood upcycling or something like that, or maybe a dinosaur forest going. We'll just have to see how everybody's schedules play out. But I hope everybody is having a great, spoopy, scary Halloween time, and I will see you soon.